Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our second day of full silence. And I do hope that you are feeling enveloped in this warm, sweet feeling of just gently moving into the truth of who I am and the feelings associated. But in saying that, the reality is that sometimes the nature of the self is to dip into the old stories, the old feelings, the old memories. It will happen. But the more I can step out of that, the quicker I can pull out of those feelings. I can re-establish a much deeper sense of who I am, that I am the eternal soul, and my intrinsic and essential nature is purity and peace. So I'm trying to begin to embed this reality back into my inner system. But today we're going to begin to embed another seed of truth into my inner being. Yesterday we explored the idea that truth is the seed. And when truth sort of manifests into my life, my being, my thoughts, my feelings, it creates a sense of purity, which is this lovely lightness, this warmth, this sense of authenticity and cleanliness inside, where I feel very comfortable about who I am as a person. Just imagine in the galaxy of human souls, there's 8 billion in our world. Isn't that amazing? 8 billion brothers and sisters we have. And do you know in 1850 there was around 1.1 billion. The majority, nearly 90%, of the population has grown in the last 170 years or so. But in this extraordinary galaxy of humanity and its variety, there is one soul that retains truth. One soul that is never influenced, and in one sense always has a perception of reality. One soul that's absolutely, completely loving, absolutely merciful. A soul that is egoless. A soul that has no desire, needs nothing, and because of that is naturally and completely benevolent. Do you think I'm a dreamer? Actually, I am a dreamer. My whole life, my family used to say, you're off with the pixies, you're very idealistic. But for me, I think this soul is real, and human beings give titles to this soul with great love and respect. Sometimes God, sometimes the divine, sometimes the supreme, sometimes Allah, Shiva, Jehovah, Abba. How many names are there? But in the hearts of humanity until this day, nearly 80% of the world's population have some sense of connection, feeling for the divine. And what is really the difference between me and that soul? Well, you might say a whole shopping list of things. But the main difference is this soul, whom we love to look up to as a reference point of values and ethics and meaning in life, is eternally pure, eternally uninfluenced. I am a soul who began in that way, but the more I forget myself, take on the identity of my body, my ego kicks in. I've known the game of happiness and sorrow, highs and lows, ups and downs. That's my story. But this soul has this story of remaining pure. And in a sense, what we're going to explore today is a relationship with a soul that's eternally pure. I often like to think the lover of the soul, the true lover. I think many of you have heard of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and you may know a lot more about her than me, I'm sure. Most do. But I found some of her thinking very fascinating in the sense that she had this understanding that all of us hold this well of grief inside, this deep sadness. And in life, when we lose someone we dearly love, a relationship or a friendship or something meaningful in my life, it opens this pre-existing wound and this deep wave of sadness, of loss, something. It's hard to describe in language, but all of us in the room know what I'm talking about. And she would say that really the wound is that at some point we have known perfect love. We've known this belonging, this connection, this perfect union, which is really often what I feel is the right of every human soul, the first human right to be completely loved. But somewhere we've lost it. And sometimes I think the search or the subtext of human life for all of us, we're all busy, we've all got jobs, families running, doing, is this search for true love, this search to find love. And we, in the most natural way, invest our heart in relationships. We all do it. It's in our DNA. It's a part of the human condition. And we give everything to our families, our children, our friends, whoever. And yet there's this huge human dilemma that no relationship is permanent. Whether it's time, whether it's change, whether it's conflict, whether it's death, the object of love goes. And this is built in the human psyche so much fear, so much insecurity that I love, but the object of love will abandon me, leave me. And yet, what spirituality and purity really explores is the one relationship that's permanent. I, the soul, with the Supreme Soul, the lover of the soul, the soul that remains pure, a real living soul. And sometimes I think, excuse me, sometimes I think there's three sources of love in life: the self, the divine, and my family and friends. The reality is not much love coming from me for me. That's the big battle of life, isn't it? To feel good about who I am. Secondly, God. I think many have a deep faith in God, but do I really feel an intimate love, belonging, care, support? And so my one source of love really is my family and my friends. And when there is a loss, it's like my whole life goes into upheaval. It's like I have to completely renegotiate who I am and what my life is about. What is spirituality? Spirituality is really embedding these truths into my being, to develop first a loving relationship with myself as a soul, so re-heal, rebuild this relationship with the self. But secondly, a loving relationship with that one soul that's eternally pure. And when I embark on these two relationships, it begins to draw out my original nature, my original purity. And this relationship with God, we're sitting in a room, we are all so different. And in my experience of life, to be frank, I've been, as a young person, a very devout atheist, pretty devout. And then I travelled the world. I wandered the world living in religious communities for a few years. I became an agnostic. We've all got our own journey. For some people, you say God and they just tears stream down their face of happiness. Other people, they just, it presses such buttons in all of us. But I think here, just offering something, it's not an expectation that to take it on board, but it's an offering of a relationship, a natural relationship. Not just a belief in a higher power, but a living relationship with another soul. And to put a little bit of picture around this relationship, just as I am a soul, the divine or God, I actually use the word Baba, is a point, like me, a soul. And a point is changeless. God is changeless. Everything else in the universe changes, but this being is constant, is a reference point. And the nature of this being, like me, eternal, immortal, non-physical. But this soul retains an unlimited love, peace, purity, power, joy. I also have that original nature, but I've lost it. And just as you can see me, I think everyone can see me. I'm a soul, and I'm sitting in the front of the brain, but I'm expressing through my body, I'm speaking, I'm moving, and you can all see the soul, like Shakespeare said, the actor expressing through the costume in the drama of life. God or Baba is a soul too, but does not have a body. And this is why this relationship becomes something unique. How do I really have a living relationship with a soul that does not hold a human form, does not hold a label of a gender, or even though we call God the Father, but God is the father and mother and all those relationships. And so I I begin to explore this relationship. And how do I connect? I connect through thoughts and feelings. When we see each other through our eyes, we touch each other, we hug each other, we connect in that way. The soul through the body, but this is a different relationship. And yet, our main relationship with each other is thoughts and feelings. As you're sitting in this room, people are popping in your mind because they've thought of you on the other side of the world. thoughts are instant. They're beyond time and space. So someone thinks of you and it pops in your inbox. And we're so used to that. We just think I've thought of them, but actually you've picked up the thought message. We all have the experience regularly. We think of someone, the phone rings, because actually we're constantly communicating through thoughts and feelings. And actually it's the main form of communication. Each time we meet somebody, we get a vibe from them, an energy from them, which makes us feel really close or a little bit reserved, depending on my interpretation of the energy that I receive. So this is a real connection. I'm not sitting imagining. It's a real living connection with a real living soul, but it's different because it's not through my sense organs. And sometimes what has helped me understand how to put a framework around rebuilding this most important relationship, because it's the one relationship that's permanent, the one relationship that always exists, is that it's almost like the Supreme Soul, Baba, whoever the name we like to use, is on the FM wavelength. When I'm bodily conscious, when I, the soul, am caught in my senses, that's my reality. The perception of my reality is this sensual world. Then I'm on the AM dial. I know FM exists, but I can't tune in. Have you ever had an FM station on an AM dial? I don't think so. So I need to go up to the FM wavelength, and that's why I practice soul consciousness. The divine, the supreme, is eternally in that state of soul consciousness. So what I'm learning here is to educate myself to become more and more soul conscious. And as I do, as I become more and more soul conscious, it's almost like automatically I enter that world and I start to have this sense of connection. And in our DNA, the DNA of the human soul is to connect, to have relationship. And this is so natural. And I feel the easy way to have a relationship is to really explore this personality, this real personality. Not just a being, a concept, an intellectual idea, some sort of belief, but a real living being, because where the heart goes, the mind will follow. There will be natural connectedness, natural relationship. And this is really the journey of meditation, to experience who I am and experience this relationship. And those two ingredients begin to restore purity in my being, and my power begins to return. But my own experience these days is that I think people yearn to meditate. We yearn to find a mind that cools down, a mind that can be silent. But it seems the hardest thing in life today, the most unachievable thing. And my experience is that where I live in Australia, people are just so into meditation. All universities, schools, they're all offered meditation, and corporations, banks, you name it, it's everywhere. And yet people find it very difficult. We really yearn to meditate, but when we sit, the mind goes all over the place. And I start to feel deep down, I'm a failure. I can't do it. And then I sort of see other people sitting quietly and I think they seem to be okay. Why is my mind like a neurotic kangaroo just jumping all over the place? This very neurotic state of mind where I just get pulled here, there and everywhere. And this is something which has really helped me in the Brahma Kumaris is that we use the word remembrance. Why? Because remembering is absolutely natural to human consciousness. In fact, at every millisecond of life, that part of the anatomy we talked about yesterday, the intellect, which is always traveling and connecting. You're sitting here now and you're traveling back to Europe and you connect to a friend, you come back here. You travel to someone in the room. You travel to something you have to do next week. You're always traveling and connecting. You know, we're always remembering. And it's a natural function of consciousness. And when we remember anything or anyone, three things happen. Three things happen. And this is all instant. It's in no time. First, I connect with a person, with a behavior, with a memory, with a situation. The instant I connect, I'm influenced by what I connect with. And the instant I'm influenced, I get a feeling inside. And so, fundamentally, how do I feel is based on what I remember. So if you're sitting here now, and in this very second, you remember a family member. They may be on the other side of the world. You're so close to that family member. There's a really meaningful, loving relationship. The instant you connect, you're influenced by that love. You feel calm, you feel easy, you feel secure, you feel relaxed. But in the next second, you go to another family member. There's conflict, there's differences. We're not getting on. It's an unhappy relationship. The millisecond I touch that, I remember that relationship, I'm influenced by that conflict. So the mind starts to go into upheaval, you know, the waves of hurt and upset and anger and disappointment and that whole range of emotion. And so just imagine, here I am going about my life and I plug in here. I'm influenced, I get a feeling. I plug in there, I'm influenced, I get a feeling. I plug in there. I'm just plugging in all over the place. And I'm transferring these influences and feelings back into my mind. And because I'm plugging into so many places, I'm fluctuating dramatically often. I go up and down. And this is why really remembrance is just beginning to understand that the subtle thread of my intellect, when I remember who I am, and I remember the lover of the soul, the Supreme Soul, or Baba, whatever you like to say, I connect with Baba, a constant source of peace, of love, absolutely stable, absolutely clean, absolutely pure. Each time I connect, I'm influenced by that, and I live stream that energy into my being. You know, it's almost like as you connect, you live stream that energy into your mind. My own experience is that when I have that ability to stop the mind wandering, why does it wander? It's looking for love, it's looking for peace. And I really realize that this is a one-stop shop where I can find love and peace. And it's like when I live stream that vibration into my mind, that very elevated, very light, pure feeling. You know, that very sweet feeling that it's a feeling inside. It sustains you. You feel full. It sustains the atmosphere around you. You have a vibe. And it sustains the people you love. The most powerful way to support the people you love is to be in that state. Because, you know, sometimes there's emotional support where all of us have friends, family members who are struggling and battling in life today. It's a really tough world out there, we all know. And we try to support them emotionally. We sit with them, we talk with them, we encourage them. They get a bit better. The next day, they're back to square one, and you just feel exhausted trying to support this person you love. But when your vibration, the energy emanating from you as a soul, they will feel that that's the most powerful way to sustain yourself, sustain the atmosphere, and sustain those you love. So the laws of remembrance say, pay attention to what I remember. And if I can suggest as a practice today, just watch what you plug into. And when you plug into an old memory, just watch. The more you plug in, you go down, 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 down into a dark place. And then you wonder, why am I not feeling good? It's obvious, because I've just plugged into this old story. But if I just keep gently, naturally plugging into the Supreme Soul and just observe how I feel. So first law of remembrance says, pay attention to what I remember. The second law says, whatever I remember will influence me. And the third law says, whatever influences me, that's going to be how I feel inside. That's my state. That's the quality of my life. And if I'm not happy, if I'm really not feeling happy, there's only one question to ask my heart. What have I been remembering? What have I plugged my thinking into, my feeling into? Often we have this addiction just to dwell on an issue. We dwell on it. The more we dwell, the more we take myself into these dark, dark, unhappy places. And then how much energy does it take to bring me back out of that dark, unhappy place? And so really this remembrance is such an important thing that restores a purity. And yet, to be very open, the human condition of today is that we've lost our self-value. As I was sharing on the first night, I honestly believe the madness, the craziness we see on the planet is an expression when 8 billion human souls have a dysfunctional relationship with self. It just flows into, each part of my life. And it seems that sometimes we like these ideas. We think, yeah, it sounds cool. I am a soul. I'll experiment with the Supreme Soul. And I sit, but I can't feel that love or that connection, because my own experience is we've got this profound addiction to not liking who I am, feeling inferior, feeling unworthy. And so I almost like I sit in front of this love that I need so much, but I can't feel it because I don't feel worthy. This is such a deep thing in the human spirit. My image is that for life after life, we've gone into the temples, the mosques, the churches, and the habit, oh God, you're so great, you're so pure, you're so this, you're so that. And I'm so impure, and I'm so low, and and I've reinforced this perception it's so deep in me. I've talked to some people, they're just the loveliest people. They're just such lovely people, but they can't see anything good in themselves. Nothing, zero. And I would say it's quite common. It's quite common because this addiction to self-dislike, rejecting the self, not liking the self. And this is the deep work to allow myself to be loved. And this makes such a shift that I am lovable. And this is the deep work of spiritual wisdom, to feel I have a right to have this love, this pure love from the divine. And for me, I think that there's really 4 levels of consciousness, we can say, which are perhaps 4 levels of purity. The one is the gross consciousness, where I, the soul, see life through my sense organs, which is the culture of life today. I see the movies, I hear the music, I watch the sports game. Life is just sensual pleasure. And the more I want more sensual pleasure to get. So I get these temporary highs, I come down, I desire more. It's the culture of life today. That's not a judgment, it's just the reality. We're all a part of that. The second level of consciousness is creative consciousness. An artist, a musician, even a scientist creates music and art forms in the mind. So you're not concentrating on this material world, but you're creating here, but then you express it. Originally, all the arts were expression of love for God. That's where all the arts began, was an expression of, the way I could express my love was through music and art and this sort of thing. I feel many of us love that space because sometimes we found it hard to accept religion and stuff, so that creative space is a very powerful space to be. Then there's a subtle space where maybe I remember a great being, Krishna or Christ or Buddha or somebody. They are virtuous beings. Beings that performed elevated actions, beings that were really amazing examples of being loving, kind human beings. Great beings, but still I'm remembering a human form, so I remain body conscious. The supreme consciousness is when I remember God as light, the original form, the point, radiating the qualities of love and purity and peace. So when I, the soul, connect with the Supreme Soul, that's when it's like the battery connects with the generator, the power comes back, and I'm able to really strengthen myself. And I really feel this cleanliness, this lightness, this purity return. And so today I just thought for our practice, just to really feel the vision of my old self, if I can use that language, how I see myself on a day-to-day basis, and then how I see myself when I'm soul-conscious. What's the difference? But thirdly, feel the vision of God or the divine or Baba. Feel that vision and how I feel in all 3. What's the feeling? And during the day, as I said, we are all unique, we are all different. A part of spirituality is to respect everyone's independent individual journey, but to experiment in a relationship with this soul that retains truth, the soul that's a bit unique from all of us, in a natural way. Not, don't have to pray or worship, but just a natural lover of the soul, to spend company with that being and see how you feel. So let's just have a few moments of meditation and We are all on the inner journey, the highest journey of life, to restore my value, my purity, my sense of self-respect, by revisiting who I am. Just visualize I, the eternal self, the immortal self, the non-physical self, the soul, sitting in the forehead and connecting to this world through my eyes, through my ears. But now I choose to withdraw into my inner world and gently detach from my temporary body and the organs that connect me to the world around me. The more I let go the consciousness of my body, I know peace. The speed of my mind begins to cool. I am a peaceful soul. This is my eternal identity. Just feel the sweetness of a mind at rest. A mind that's not eternally searching, seeking, desiring, wanting. I'm at rest in my inner peace. And in this state of soul consciousness, I move into the FM wavelength. And through my third eye, I connect with a living soul. But a soul that's eternally pure and thereby completely lovable. A real soul, like me, but untarnished by ego, negativity, fear. The heart is automatically attracted to this lover of the soul. And in this sweet connection, allow yourself to be completely loved. Become like a small child. Open your heart and feel the quality of this love, the purity of this love. It's real. Just relax. Open myself. Feel this love pouring into my being. It's like coming home. It's like my whole inner world begins to settle, become still. I need nothing more than to be truly loved, to truly belong. This is the pinnacle experience of life. Just allow yourself to feel loved. And in this experience, observe how you feel about yourself. This love restores my self-respect, restores the relationship with myself, heals past feelings of self-rejection and self-dislike. Throughout the day, my mind is always remembering, constantly. But the more I begin to remember this relationship, the more stable I feel. It's like a reference point that never changes. Everything else around me is always changing. Just practice today. As I observe my mind, remembering the past, remembering what I have to do, remembering a comment of somebody, just redirect my remembrance to Baba, the lover of the soul, and observe how I feel. Now let us move on and reconvene here at 12 noon.